Here we go.
How's it going, Raider Nation? It's JT coming at you with another episode of the Raidercast, your podcast for everything silver and black. Today, I'm going to be doing the State of the Nation, the second episode of this series. Every Friday, you'll give me questions, and I will give you answers to all of your football questions regarding the Raiders. And I'll even answer anything outside the Raiders, anything about the NFL in general. I only got a few questions today. That's okay. I will answer as many or as little as I get. Every question I will try and get to. If I start getting a lot, I'll have to pick and choose. But for right now, these are the ones I got. So we're going to roll with them. And the first question we got is from Mike Van Dyke on Twitter. He asks, do you like Stidham? And could you see us trading or cutting Carr and not drafting a QB or signing one in free agency if we get another big game from Stid-HIM on Saturday? I absolutely love Stidham. To answer your first part of your question, I think that Stidham showed a lot of grit, a lot of great characteristics of a starting QB, maneuvered around the pocket, kept his eyes downfield at all times, made some pretty nice throws, especially on the run. That first touchdown to Waller, the design rollout, was a beauty of a throw. The back shoulder fade to Davante Adams into the corner of the end zone was a beaut. Also a great play by Davante. Jarrett just literally just chucking it up and able to get it to Davante, getting him the ball. Same thing with Darren Waller. He just made sure he could throw it to the guys, and as long as it was in the general vicinity, they made sure they could get that ball, which is just fine. If you have your playmakers make plays, get them the ball, they will make plays. And Davante Adams, Darren Waller, they did that. I thought that he did an exceptional job taking hits, being able to escape pressure. At one point, he was wrapped around his feet and was able to chuck the ball to Matt Collins and get the touchdown. Get a first down, not a touchdown. And obviously that big play that he did that's been everywhere was he took two shots from Ufanga and another player and somehow got the ball off to Davante Adams for a 60-yard touchdown, which was an incredible play by him. Just great awareness, great pocket movement, able to reset his feet and just do a nice throw over the heads of two defenders and get a touchdown. I think that he played fantastic, and I'm excited to see what he does on Saturday. And I think will play pretty well on Saturday, despite tape being out and stuff like that. I think he'll play a just fine game. So to the second part of your question, we absolutely cut or trade Carr. There's no question. But to the other part, do we not draft a QB or sign one free agency if Stidham plays well on Saturday? I think regardless of how Stidham plays on Saturday, we sign or draft a QB. I think if we can land Tom Brady and if we can make it work for the team, we get Tom Brady. If we can make it work for the team and get Jimmy Garoppolo, I think we get Jimmy Garoppolo. If those don't work out, do I think we get a QB in the draft? Probably. Do we get it in the first? I don't know. Do we get it like later on? Maybe get like Hendon Hooker later? I don't know. I don't know how it works out depending on what draft capital we have. If we get from Carr, if we get any draft capital from Carr, where we end up as our seeding. If we win on Saturday, that messes up our draft position a lot. If we don't win, we can end up with like as high as the sixth draft position, which could land us a QB. 6 could absolutely land us someone like CJ Stroud or Will Levis. Bryce Young is off the table. There's no way he gets past 1 or 2, depending on who has the first pick. But I think that Stidham should be re-signed regardless of what we do in the offseason. Carr is going to be gone regardless, whether it's a trade or a cut. So there's no question about that. And I think he'll have an open competition as long as the QB is not Brady. If Brady's brought in, the job is his. If Garoppolo is brought in, I think he has a chance to win out over Garoppolo, but I think you'd have to roll with Garoppolo just for the veteran presence. But regardless, he's clearly shown he can be a very, very valuable backup, and he should get a solid backup, QB money. I think he should get like a 2-year, $15 million deal, which should be, that's a pretty good deal as a backup quarterback. So I think regardless of how he plays Saturday, he comes back to this team because he knows the playbook like the back of his hand at this point. And if he needs to be coming to relief for the QB that we do end up starting, if it's not him, then if they get hurt, we know we have a solid backup to rely on, worst case scenario. All right, the second question is from Cass at Envy Spots. They ask, can we stop going after linebackers and get cornerbacks and safety? What we doing? Not gonna lie, we don't go after linebackers. Divine Diablo and Luke Masterson are the most recent linebackers we got at any point in the draft, other than Tanner Muse, who didn't play a snap for us, so I'm not even going to count Tanner Muse. We very rarely draft linebackers high. Like I said, Divine Diablo, 5th round pick. Luke Masterson, undrafted free agent. Darian Butler, undrafted free agent. Denzel Perryman's our best linebacker since the 80s, and he was a desperation trade in the offseason we got from the Panthers, and there was not even a guarantee he was going to even be healthy to take the trade. But we traded for him, one of the best trades we made in recent memory, because he played out of his mind for us, which was fantastic. He became a leader and a captain in this locker room. But we need to go for all of them. We need to go for linebacker. We need to go corner. We need to go safety in this draft. We need to go for linebacker, corner, safety, and D-line add D-line to the draft too, but also in free agency. I don't think we get a linebacker in free agency unless it's Denzel Perryman. We could go for corner in the free agency and safety, depending on who's available, the money they're asking for, stuff like that. There's a lot of free agents this offseason. There's a lot of interesting free agents, especially from teams that are in the playoffs that don't have a lot of cap space. New Orleans Saints are going to be out of a lot of money. They're in negative $50 million this upcoming offseason. They're not in a good spot. So there should be a lot of trades, cuts, and stuff to have those teams be able to get underneath the cap before the start of the season. The Eagles have a lot of players on one-year deals that they can't all re-sign. We could get someone like James Bradbury from the Eagles, depending on what happens with Marshawn Lattimore and the Saints. Does he stay? I would think so. They would want to keep him because he's like one of their biggest and best players. But he's not a guaranteed stay just because they are $50 million over the cap, which is an insane amount of money. We have, like, at the moment, 30 million, so that's not a lot for being over, but for being under, but for being over the cap, 50 million is a ton. And in terms of safety, I mean, Trayvon Murray was a second-round pick in 2020, but he's been very disappointing. Or 2021, he's been extremely disappointing this season. Maybe he just needs an extra time in the system. I don't know yet. He's obviously going to be here next year, so at best, he's a good backup safety. At worst, he's a bad starting safety. Then you have Darren Harmon, who played really well for us. I think he should be back on a vet minimum deal, I think. And then backup corners have been really solid. Amik, Tyler Hall, and Sam Webb should all be really, really good options for depth if there's injuries and stuff like that. I think Amik has definitely earned that, in my opinion. But yeah, there's going to need a lot of reworking on the defensive side. And going to the next question, that is a very similar question to the next question from Chanda at Choi3240 on Twitter. He asks, do you think we'll have a competent defense next year? To that I say, hopefully. One can only hope that we have a competent defense, and I think a lot of it will be, if we can honestly get down the red zone touchdown percentage, I think our defense should be much better. There's been moments and flashes where you see where this defense could be strong. We hung in there with the Saints and Steelers. We held them to well under 20 points. The Chargers, we technically held under 20 points. Same thing with the Patriots. 2 pick sixes from those offenses in those games. And recently, our defense is giving up something like, before the Saints game, was like 15 points a game if you take away the pick sixes, which is insanely good, despite it being against, I guess you could say, lesser competition, lesser offenses, excluding the Chargers and the Seahawks games. But we've been holding teams to under 20 points, other than the Niners and the Seahawks game, which are 2 pretty solid offenses. So, and in that game, there was 2 picks from Carr in the Seahawks game that put the defense in bad positions. So I think if we can get a little bit more talent, a little bit better coverage in the secondary, and maybe an extra linebacker and a bit better pass rush, especially from the interior of the defensive line, we should absolutely have a more competent defense. And if we can get that red zone touchdown percentage to go down, I think our defense will be a top half defense. You can't go from worst to first, very, you can't do that turnaround very well, especially if you don't have a lot of talent. It's going to be a slow build for the defense to get to that point. Look at the Niners. They've been homegrown talent, so there's going to be a lot of defensive draft picks in this upcoming draft, the next 2 drafts really, because we wasted them all in the other drafts that we had. Cleveland Ferrell, the bust at 4. You have Damon Arnett, Tanner Muse, Trayvon Marks kind of on his way to be a bust. I mean, there's been a ton of draft capital being put. Oh, Jonathan Abram, how could I forget about him? Ton of draft capital into the defense over the past 3 years, and they didn't pan out at all. So we absolutely need to hit on those defensive draft picks and hit in free agency, and not get signings like Corey Littleton or LaMarcus Joyner again. But I absolutely think that we will get a competent defense going into next season. But that's all I have for today. That's all of your questions that I got. Next Friday will be the same exact thing. Give me your questions and I will answer them. Game tomorrow, I will be live. I will be live for the finale to the Raiders 2022-2023 season. A very disappointing season, but hopefully we can end off on a high note. Watch some Jarrett Stid-HIM football, watch some Max Crosby versus Patrick Mahomes football, and hope it's just a good game. Anyways, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. Actually, I'll see you guys in the next live stream, which is tomorrow. And don't forget to like and subscribe here. Leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts on what I said today. And I hope you guys had an absolutely fantastic day. And peace out, Raider Nation.